Recording started.
I just touch this, it changes, right? I'm still learning the back stuff. Okay, excellent. Well, good afternoon. I know we're wrapping up the conference, and so everybody is much looking forward to the raffle. But I'm very glad that you're here. My name is Nic Xenos. I'm the Academic Alliance Manager for Juniper Networks, and I'm co-presenting this with Pierre Thiry, who I believe you know, and Circle Bayraktar. And she's got some really cool stuff that's coming up that she's going to demonstrate to you towards the end of the presentation. I wanted to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about where we are in our Academic Alliance program. There are some really exciting things going on, and as a company, we're growing, and the technology is really fun. It's also very relevant to what your students will require going forward in a multi-vendor environment, and as networking gets more complex, and as applications start to talk to the network and affect the way it works. So we as a company are positioned very well to do that, and through the Academic Alliance, you can afford your students the ability to come out more employable and more educated. So we talked to the new network, and I will explain what that means here shortly. I would just like to say that it's a great pleasure to be here. The City College of San Francisco is our first Academic Alliance partner, and has been here from the beginning, and through MPICT and through our cooperation, it is really a great example of how industry can partner with academia. And the results that come out of that, and Pierre's going to talk to that a little bit. I know that not everybody knows about Juniper, so I thought I'd just take a couple of slides, and I apologize for the blatant marketing, but it's kind of important, I think, to understand a little bit about where we're coming from and what we're doing, and how that relates to your students, and potentially how you'd like to engage with us. So we have a mission. Our mission is to connect everything and to empower everyone. And we do it in sort of a rather unique way. I mean, networking's been around for a long time, but we have a very unique combination of silicon, the actual structural part of that, the software, and the flexibility of that software, and the power of that software, and the systems that it goes into. And so the combination of that has made us really kind of a formidable player in the market, and growing. So through high performance networking and industry innovation, we've made some pretty big changes in the technology area. So once again, maybe some of you don't know who we are, but we are there. We do the heavy lifting in the service provider arena. We've been around since 1997 and have made some quantum leaps in a variety of different areas, doing this combination of silicon software and systems and how it all fits together. So you've seen some of these names before, and we play very heavily in those arenas. We're about 8,000 people as a company, and you can see the numbers there as far as run rates, and they're just getting bigger. That's all good. Interesting, this slide I think shows how we have impacted the industry, and it's really that combination of silicon and software that makes the difference. So you can see the kind of quantum leaps and speed and feeds, and I won't bore you with speed and feeds today, but when you throw those two things together, you get some really amazing results. So from 1997 all the way through to today, those changes have been happening, and have been happening very, very rapidly. You can see that in the applications and the systems that we put out there from 1998. And these boxes you probably won't see in your classrooms or in your schools. They're sitting in the back closets of the mobile providers, sending tremendous amounts of data across the backbone. So this last year, and this is just kind of a fun fact, we brought out the T4000, and the T4000 can transfer the entire contents of YouTube in less than an hour. So just to give you a reference point of how that works. It means that you could effectively put 80% of the U.S. population making a phone call at the same time. So this is through that box. So, I beg pardon? Oh, really? Getting circuits. Well, and when you see how these touches, how many? We were sitting in the other room and people were, doing some Netflix, or they were doing, and your kids perhaps. Everybody is connecting. Everybody. And so it's not just sending email anymore. The appliances are talking to each other. Mobile devices have a huge effect on the networks. And so this thing is not getting smaller anytime soon. We all have computers sitting with us, and so these kinds of speeds and the way these systems can integrate and dynamically reconfigure themselves based on requirements is going to be the way of the future. And that's really why we call it the new network. So. So that's enough of the marketing, but I thought it was kind of important to understand that how somebody who thought, they looked at the networking industry at the time, thought they could do it better, got together some really smart people and then created a company, which is where it is today. How this relates to us? Well, it's really kind of interesting, despite the fact that we have, in addition to the fact that we have this tremendous power, we're going to need engineers, right? We need people that are trained how to use it. And not only from the viewpoint of working on the boxes themselves, working in the industry, but now, as I mentioned before, you have all of these requirements that are being put onto the network. The network is designed in sort of a traditional format to take the worst case situation, right? So the biggest game, what is it going to call? The biggest mobile device and so on and so forth. So the applications could actually reconfigure that. They could change the way the network works right now, but it means that not from just the IT side, people need to understand how this all configures, but also cross disciplines, right? Your gamers, people that are writing to the new games, people that are creating media and these high bandwidth requirements. All of a sudden, you click a button, you want to get a movie. Well, how does that affect your network? Right? Maybe you don't need that bandwidth all the time, but you need it just for the next 25 minutes, it's for the next hour, right? In case of gaming, it could be 6 hours. But that application of that device could make that change if it's configured correctly. So you want to create students. You want to put your students in a position to be able to go out there and say, look, it doesn't matter if you're just working on the network itself. You want the people that are creating these applications, these devices, to be able to have that conversation in the intelligent network and make all of those things happen, so we can pick up the phone and make a call, and you don't have that blockage on Mother's Day or New Year's Day or those peak times. How does it affect training? Well, in fact, we have one OS, one operating system across all of the boxes, from the very small one all the way to the very big one. And so from a training point of view and from an enablement point of view for your students, you can, once you've trained them, once you've shown them how it works, how it all configures, they can go into a variety of different areas. And we've built with some help with Pierre and working with some of the other academic alliance partners, we've built a curriculum that will set them up in a position to be able to go into these different areas and be productive. So one OS makes it all rather good and easy to move forward. So we have what we call the Academic Alliance, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, very happy to be here and have our connection with MPICT and the City College of San Francisco, who is our first Academic Alliance partner, and we look forward to growing that family. But what do we want to do with the Academic Alliance partner? Well, with this tier, we have two tiers. One is simply the technical training aspect of it, which is enabling the student to be the best engineer they could be in a multi-vendor environment going forward. And the other is creating the foundation for students that may go on to do programming and actually creating this dynamic environment within network itself. So we've broken that down into the technical training institutes and the research and application development side. Both require the technical foundation, so whether or not they start here or they're programmers, now you're starting to see some cross-disciplinary stuff there already, they're going to need the foundations. Where is that foundational understanding and learning coming from? It's coming from us here, from the schools that get people on the right path and build that foundation. Very exciting. When we started the program, we were just working on this side. This is a development that's come out since then, so now we have 2 tiers, and we're really excited about that aspect of it. Let's talk a little bit about our technical training institutes, which is really the tier that the community colleges fit in. Wanted to give you a little bit about how we approach that. And so our focus is really to be partners. And once again, you know, the work we've done with Pierre and some others who have helped us in a variety of areas keeps us in sync with the sorts of things that you need from us to make your students successful. The MPICT Advisory Board talks to what kinds of jobs and job objectives does the new workforce need to know? You know, and how do we create that? And so, you know, we've done some of that needs analysis, as have some of the other vendors in the industries. We know what you need to be successful in those areas. And so creating that cooperation between MPICT and expanding those things is really a partnership, and it's the way it should be with industry and academia. So we're very, very excited about that. I'm extremely passionate about it, so it's a pleasure to be able to forward that and to engage with you in any way to push that forward. So we do, and to that end, we're very, very flexible. So we have an extensive curriculum, and it's focused from extremely technical to some more of the basic foundational fundamentals. And through our alliance, you can take the courses as they are, or you can take portions of them or portions of the lab and include them in a curriculum that you have right now. Some of our academic alliance partners have found that a good way to ramp up. We welcome a multi-vendor environment. We know that that's real life out there. So we have courses to show you how the technologies that you're teaching, how you might be able to incorporate that within, including the technology that we have, and take the benefits of everything. So there's a lot of different ways to approach that, and we can help you and talk to that as we work forward in our relationship. Our instructor training is for free, so any of the faculty that is interested in participating could come to our classes. We have a robust program of instructor-led online courses as well. That are, you have an instructor there, but you're doing it remotely. So we try to facilitate that. If you're here in the local area, we have a huge training center right down in Sunnyvale. If you're a little bit further away, we've done sessions for some Chinese alliance partners and other parts of the world where you just, they can't necessarily travel. And I realize that some of you all have travel constraints as well. So we try to accommodate that as well as we can. The instructor guides for you are for free. So you get a special login, you can download the latest, and we update those as the technology changes. Also the configurations, the lab guides that go along and support the training that we have. We offer, we would like you to get certified because obviously, you have to know your subject before you move forward with it. We all understand that. And we do that through one of the systems out there, secure systems, high-stakes testing rather. And we offer you coupons for that as well. So we would like you to advance your education. You can take any of the courses that we have and expand on the knowledge that you already know. And we have discounts for coupons for your students as well. And Pierre will talk a little bit about the curriculum and how that fits into certification in just a minute. We have other support and resources for the instructors. You can call up our growing community of instructors, both internally and through the Academic Alliance. And one of the things I'm working on is expanding these communities. So we have the blogs, and we have Twitter, and we've got Facebook. And so as you join and get involved, you could ask a question. And as you all know, as colleagues, if you ask a question, you're likely to get more answers than you perhaps wanted, but at least you'll have a choice on it, right? So the idea is to continue to grow that community and continue to grow that conversation so we can develop best practices and grow together. We have a tremendous discounts on lab gear and also some other options that Circle is going to give you a little sneak peek about here shortly. But once again, we want to afford you the best learning experience for your students, and that of course means hands-on in the technical world. So you can incorporate those aspects into your training. We have a new series of Academic Alliance course books, and again developed with the help of Pierre, and we're excited about that. They're kind of away from what we have used traditionally as sort of a slide and some note-taking thing. It's more in a textbook, as your students are more aware of, and those through our online bookstore can be downloaded or and printed locally, or through shipping an actual printed document.
Any question now?
Yeah.
Do you work with campus bookstores too?
Yes, actually, sure, yeah. We're quite flexible with that. In fact, right now we have an on-fulfillment house that handles that. There is going to be a front-end bookstore that's dedicated to the Academic Alliance, and we're doing this here first, within the next few months. And so either your students could go directly, but if your school doesn't allow that, then the bookstore would have that relationship with the online bookstore.
Well, the bookstore has to offer it. When the student gets the book, they have no control over it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Cisco Press. They can go to Cisco Press and buy the book much faster than they can buy it or Amazon or eBay.
Yeah, and that's fine. And we can set up those relationships, and they can go and order it and offer it as they need to. Yeah. I alluded to the virtual training environment, which I won't say an awful lot about because Circle is going to engage us with that. So in sort of a nutshell, what do we do through our technical training institutes? Well, we afford you the opportunity to provide a technical expertise, or certainly a great foundation for your students. They can glean certifications in our operating system and our technology, and that leads to increased employability, and that certainly is an issue these days. And from us, from a sort of a selfish point of view, it's always good to have engineers out there that understand the technology and know how to apply it. And so it's useful around. It does lead into our certification program, and I won't go into a lot of detail because we've got quite a lot of information on that on the website, but we do have the different tiers. Just only to say that the focus for our Academic Alliance is in this area here. So you would have a foundation to either start as a foundation across the Juniper OS, and that could take you up into the enterprise routing and switching, and also into the security area, and gives a great foundation for service provider, which has traditionally been a sweet spot for us. But we're very, very strong in all those areas, and certainly it's very interesting to engage learning in this growing market. Oops. And just a slide shot of our Academic Alliance course book. And I think at this point I'd like Pierre to join us and talk a little bit about how we collaborated in creating these.
Yeah, so before going into the detail of this slide, which is the present program Juniper, I would like to share a little bit of history. As Nic said, we have been the first academy, and that was about 3.5 years ago. Now several of you are offering the Juniper program, and historically it's like this. around, I think, 2006, Juniper, which is building these very fancy routers that were very expensive, demanded a lot of expertise, went into the enterprise area. And so they were there to chase series of routers. And then that means that their routers were more affordable, that they were directed toward the enterprise. And that's when coming to the community colleges for education became something that was attractive and doable. And so if we go much more earlier, let's say when Juniper started, obviously they fulfilled a group of engineers. There was a company that was doing routers for many years. A group of engineers got together and realized that there was something that had to be done to serve the high-end needs of the telecommunication companies, and they created Juniper. And like Nic said, what is very attractive in Juniper, not only this is a unique operating system, but this was the separation between the routing engine and the forwarding plane. If you are familiar with routing, that's very, very significant. It allows the routers to not confuse the issues between configuring it and pushing the packets. And so this was something that was really unique, and also the fact that it's based on free BSD, which is a Unix-based program. So that's still there. So some of us have taken and have taught the Juniper courses that were based on the previous training program that was available from Juniper, and that was the OJ, operating Juniper routing in the enterprise and advanced routing in the enterprise. And this, the way Juniper did their training before, and we would adapt that for a community college environment, was the week-long training, 4 or 5 days training. And there was some request from, I think, the industry, the providers of services, to kind of modularize it. And so when Nic came to me and said, this is what we are, what our training program is doing, then we had to figure out how does this fit into a community college program in, semester-long courses, 3 units, which is pretty much what we try to do, and or quarter units. And so this is what we came up with. It's really, and I'm really excited because in 2 weeks I'm going to start teaching this. The way it works is that there is something that is understood. Also, another thing that we did in the past is that we required our students to have CCNA knowledge. I don't know if it was like that in other colleges, and that limits our audience. And so the way we are planning to do it, and we're going to do it today, we expect the students to have networking fundamentals. And Juniper has a course, which is a 5-hour course, something like that, which is online, which is free, that everybody can take. It's free for everybody. And that represents pretty much intro to networking content. OSI model, TCP/IP, basic function of routers and switches, etc. And that's the foundation. And so for this course that we're going to start next a couple of weeks, we just accept students who have this knowledge. So they don't know Cisco IOS. There may be some people who know Cisco IOS. We used to start the course in the past by giving them a course that is so free from Juniper, which is called Junos as a second language. But most of my students this semester will be Junos as a first language. And that's kind of exciting. They're going to learn how to configure a router, static routing, and we will be able to learn OSPF, all that. But before that, they will have to take how to configure routers, a basic CLI function. And so this is like a 1-day course for Juniper. And then Juniper Routing Essential is also a 1-day course, and this is a two-day course. So this is about the equivalent in number of hours of one semester. And so that's what we're going to try to do. And what is very interesting is that with these two, you can take the first certification of Juniper, which is now called GNCIA Junos. That's right. Is that GNCIA Junos? Yeah. And so that's a GNCIA Junos. So we're going to be able to tell my students to take the GNCIA Junos. The Junos intermediate routing is pretty tough. We'll do our best to cover that in the first semester. And if my college or MPICT give me the funding, we will try to pilot this next year, which will be the enterprise switching, because in 2008, Juniper decided to create switches, which are very popular in the industry because people already know Junos and already have Juniper routers. They want to have Juniper switches. And then, if I'm correct, Juniper acquired a company, which is a security company, which is called NetScreen. And then after a couple of years, they have their own security appliance, which is the SRX router switches, which is the basis for this Juniper security module. So it's very exciting to be a part of this effort. We are, I think Juniper still supports OJRA and HARE curriculum, but they really recommend that the direction for the alliance programs is to take this program. So the other thing, which is for those of you who are familiar with the first try of the Juniper alliance, the labs are now in parts of two routers with virtual routers. So it's much more easier to have students taking the labs because they don't have to work with 8 different routers. So it's really modularized and it's very well documented. So with the help of Tim Ryan, who is here somewhere, who is going to help me to set that up, we're going to be able to retool our lab. We already have the routers and be able to deliver this training. So I think I want to give it back.
Just wanted to say briefly that thank you, Pierre. And over the course of a year, looking at this curriculum, your students could come out with an 3 industry certifications. Right? One foundational one, and then 2, one in the enterprise routing and switching, and one in security. And that's a foundation also for the service provider track, as I mentioned earlier. Yes.
So if we wanted to adopt this program and look at next year, is the 2-semester program here?
But right now we have one semester program.
And then looks like everything was pretty much free. The instructor training, the search for discount, but there was a discount on equipment. What are the minimum requirements for equipment? There, I know you and
that's a very good point. We got our equipment from Juniper a long time ago, and actually they donated it to us. They don't do that anymore. Things are a little bit harder. But we'll probably, instead of giving you the chain routers, they would probably recommend that you purchase the security router, the SRX. Okay, and then I don't know what the price will be. What we were talking with Tim Ryan is that since we have a lab, since we have partners, we could coordinate access to our lab remotely by our partners in a way that would be really beneficial to everybody. So it's being co-used, and so that's something. I did the training in October at Juniper in Sunnyvale with the routers. I didn't even see them. They were in the other room. And then I did a boot camp in December, and the routers, I don't know, they must have been somewhere in the Netherlands or somewhere like that. So I don't even know where they were. So that's really something that we should really be able to leverage.
So have you thought about offering this in this scenario, remotely?
Yes, and yeah.
Juniper is just Cisco happened many years ago. We're kind of locked in as the vendor at this point.
Sure.
Especially, much smaller district than San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to purchase more equipment.
I agree. Yes. So thank you for leading into the next section of the presentation. We have some really exciting things coming down the road, and Serpil will talk to that here in just a second, and I think it's going to answer that question for you. I just to wrap this up very quickly, we're all about building community. We're all about building communication. We want your students, and you want your students obviously to have reference materials and the best courseware that we can provide for you. You can incorporate that courseware into your current curriculum, into your current courseware or sections of it. So as I said, flexibility is the way that we approach this. Positive attitude towards Juniper technology. Thank you, Pierre. That was great. That's a great example right here. And I mentioned the certification, and just partnering with us is kind of the bottom line with this. This is not we're not in sales. We're not in any kind of aspect in that area. We're just looking about growing the community and growing the mind share together, sharing between each other the best practices as well. And with that, I think I will turn that over to Serpil, who will show you something really cool. Nobody has really seen this.
I haven't seen this
yet. So this is the first here, and it's something that we have been working on for a little while from the viewpoint of expanding the capabilities of the Academic Alliance specifically, although there are some other applications that go with it. And with that,
my name is Sarpis Bayraktar, and I work in the Infrastructure Products Group at Juniper Networks. I'm one of the engineers. And we have been working on a rather exciting project in terms of education and training called Virtual Journals in the Cloud. What it is it's a virtualization environment. You have several virtual machines running Junos on top, connected to each other, forming a network. I don't know how familiar you are with the virtualization environment. I'm basically talking about a server with lots of memory, storage, CPU, capable of running multiple Juniper router software on it. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 100. And we think that this is going to be a really affordable and easy way to access Juniper routers. We're calling them virtual Juniper routers because we're talking about software at the moment. And we have trials going on right now. It runs in a cloud computing environment. What that means, I think cloud computing is a very popular word. We have a bunch of servers in a secure area where you can log in and log into Juniper routers configured to talk to each other the way you want them to be. So maybe a virtual lab. It is built to provide scale and performance. So we're talking about like hundreds of routers, not 2 or 3, but really several routers together. And some third-party tools. Obviously, a lab completely isolated in a virtual LAN is not that attractive. You want to be able to utilize especially the open source tools, the free tools, MRTG, OpenVRT, you name it, SNMP, whatever you have out there, you want to be able to use. And we have been able to incorporate these third-party tools into the virtual lab. And we think that it's going to be a whole new approach to network education and training where you are no longer constrained by the physical hardware. We all know that equipment is expensive. It's not just getting the equipment, then you have to find space, you have to find power, you have to hire people to run that equipment, and then it's obsolete, and then it needs to be upgraded. So there are a lot of aspects of having physical hardware, but if everything is virtual, that takes a lot of load off of you, and obviously software is quite cheaper than hardware. Some high-level features at the moment. What we have is it supports all the control plane routing protocols, the basics, static routing, OSPF, ISR3, BGP, layer 3 VPNs, LDP, RSVP, and IPv6. Everything that does not require software forwarding. we're working on that. That's not in there yet. And it's really, we were able to put together very complex network topologies. 100 Juniper routers, each running a different version. Add to that some servers running CentOS or FreeBSD, and you can do whatever you want with them. TCP dump is very popular with students, it seems. And some third-party virtual machine images. So Spirent is a vendor for traffic generator, and their equipment is very, very expensive. It's extremely expensive. They are working on a virtual version of their equipment, and we are able to generate packets and send it to the virtual routers. Obviously, it's not going to be at the OC192 speeds or anything. This is all Ethernet environment, but it really helps for learning. It's not for scaling and performance testing, but we do see this virtualization effort in the other vendors in the networking industry. There is a company that we have a partnership with called MPICT Design, and they have a very cool tool, and I brought a demo today because I just really liked it and I thought you'd find it very interesting. It really is. It's not boring. But we were able to get their software and put it in a virtual machine, and what that tool does, it monitors the BGP sessions in the network. It peers with one of the routers in your virtual network, and then it monitors the updates coming in, which AS they came from, if it withdraw. And I'll show you, I actually injected routes from real internet to the virtual network that I have for demo, and you can see who's flapping, which network provider out there doing something. It's nice, if nothing else, for the students to see what the flap looks like on the internet, coming from one provider, and ours is NTT. So it's interesting. And let's see, everything is Ethernet before you ask, and we connect these virtual routers using the virtual Ethernet switch. It's a software that we use. So really, from practical point of view, you have a bunch of routers connected to each other through an Ethernet switch, and that's it. So, and then I think the last bullet is very important, at least as a user to me, and not having that virtual network isolated and having a technology to connect it to your lab. Let's say in your lab you have a Cisco router and you want to do interrupt testing. We have a technology to connect these virtual routers to a real hardware. And that's how I get the real routes from the internet into my virtual lab. Okay. And I've listed some of the things that I could think of, how VJC can play a really important role as an academic resource. If you have an online education program, being able to offer a virtual lab along with that would be very cool. It sounds cool. It can be a general network training lab that you can construct it for a semester, and next semester you want to add something else, you can reconfigure it because it's not hardware, right? You don't have to shuffle things. It's a configuration, matter of configuration. Think about having tens and hundreds of routers at your disposal, and every semester you come up with a network topology or maybe expand it. So it is a really much easier way to maintain and reconfigure. The third bullet is coming from me. I did work in the network provider environment before. Then you start getting into troubleshooting network problems, monitoring your routers. Things start to get a little more complex. And with this, you would be able to create scenarios that are, papers published out there saying, okay, man-in-the-middle attack or something. But that requires a number of routers and a specific way to configure them. With this tool, I'm thinking those kind of papers could be taken as a case study and given to the students and say, well, find the problem. The routing is broken. Where is the problem? I think those will be really interesting. And finally, collaboration is obviously very important. Pierre talked about sharing labs. If you think about all these resources being in the cloud and everybody has a similar access to it, you can easily share. And you can talk about the different kinds of topologies you created for your students. Maybe, one community college came up with a really nice topology that can be shared with another one, and there are some options there. We have also, what we did with this tool is we used it for modeling. We took some real service provider networks, and we recreated them in the virtual environment. And then we thought it would be very cool if they did BGP with each other, kind of creating a virtual internet. And so for modeling purposes, it's quite useful. I'm thinking some of Juniper customers will find that interesting eventually. They don't know about it yet. And if you wanted to offer a route analysis, a course on route analysis, as I said, that could be interesting. And for providers, if there's a new network technology, they have to build a lab first, and then they have to play with the technology, get comfortable with it. And at the end of that, they might say, I don't like it, I'm not going to deploy it. So having it built in a virtual environment and then decide whether you will invest in the hardware is going to be really helpful. And I asked Nic what an example training lab today looks like. It's always a triangle. It's, this is kind of typical. You have a management network and a server that controls the login, and you have student workstations. You have 3 routers. Everybody has to share those resources. Maybe you are injecting routes to make it more interesting. And I'm hoping, this is something you'll be able to do. This could be your training lab, because you have the resources now. Whether you do it or not is but I am thinking, how about have groups of students run their own POP and peer with each other? That's what they did out there in the ISP world. And you can have your data centers, use a server CentOS VM and stuff like that. And we did build this. We called it ExampleNet 2, but it's very boring, so I decided not to bring it today. Yeah, but this is actually a very good representation of the service provider.
Really exciting. Just a couple pictures on there.
I have to add this. Because of the way the fiber is laid out there, almost every service provider's network kind of looks like this in the end, because that's how they are connected. Yeah. And so once you bring up a topology like this, for example, as I said, using that routing site manager, it's a third-party tool. It's by Packet Design. It's a local company from Palo Alto. But what it does is it learns your IGP, your network topology. And what we have been doing is we are building the network, thinking this is how it's going to be, and then using Routing Site Manager to show us, is it really like that? And I found several links that were down that I didn't even notice. It's a config error, human error. So it's been a very nice little tool. And you can use MRTG, multi-router traffic grapher, to check the traffic if you're sending some packets, or using SNMP. How much time? I'm really quick.
5 minutes.
Okay, so please.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, good.
5 minutes.
Okay, good. So this topology I built to show you today, I have it up and running. I have triangle routers. I'm running OSPF. It's all EMs, Ethernet interfaces. I have a full mesh IBGP using private AS. The nice thing is that I have hooked up my virtual network, and I hope it's still up, connected to the Juniper lab. And I have a machine in that lab that gets the feed from the internet. So all these 3 routers have 300,000 some routes coming into them. I wanted to show you that because, when you hear the word virtual router, when I first heard it, I thought it's probably a piece of junk. But no, they are actually normal routers. They're fast, they can handle full routing, and they can run normal Junos. And I think that's the important thing. You don't want to be locked into one version of software. Different software is important. And then I have that virtual routing site manager running, monitoring my network. I also have Juno Space in there. That's Juniper's new little baby. I use it to show you how you can look at your inventory. And that's all I can show you. That's all I figured out. I have a CentOS machine, and I have TCP dump running. I mean, I was just thinking, if I were a student, what would I be interested? I want to know what's going on between the two. But obviously, if you have a server, you can install any software on it. And MRTG is also running on that. And that's me. Okay, let's see. Well, I put these just in case the demo fails. But I'll show you. That's Juno Space. It's showing me that I have 3 routers, and these are the Junos versions that they are running. And I put 3 different versions to show you that they really can run different versions. They're all up. And these are the 3 routers. And then you can do TCP dump. Now the ESP. Any questions about what I've prepared?
Actually, I have a comment, if I could.
Yes, please.
So I'm James Jones, MPICT's Executive Director, and my comment is just, wow. If anybody does not see this, this is amazing, and I'm blown away, and thank you.
I'll put it back to my team. It's a team effort. Okay.
When you get ready, I have another question.
Yes.
When can I use this?
It's coming.
What?
As I said, you guys saw it first.
Yeah.
This shows our commitment to the Academic Alliance and the way that we treat you as partners. So we expect to grow this community together. And we do it in collaboration and cooperation. But we're thinking about it. The Academic Alliance is going to be the first to get this. So,
are you going to try it?
Twisted it.
Show you the... Okay, this is my router 1. Let's see if it's still alive. Oh, it's alive. This is router 1. This is my BGP configuration. These are my 3 BGP sessions. And you see that last one, 30.30.30.1, that's the one that's in the lab. And that's where I'm getting 334,435 routes that are on the network right now. So, they withdraw and announce. I'll show you. It's very I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can see it. Yes. There are your routes. Those are the ASs, real ASs announcing them. Well, 69 is our lab AS. Obviously, we're using somebody else's AS, and we shouldn't, but we're in the lab. We didn't care before. 10458 is Juniper's test AS, and I guess the first one is Juniper's AS, 14203. 2914 is actually a well-known one. That's NTT America, which is our provider. And then the rest is wherever it came from. And you can do a detailed lookup to see the communities and the AS paths on them. Here you go. You can see how NTT America puts these communities. I bet they do something with them. It looks like they do. Each provider has their own scheme of using communities. I don't know what they are like. You can see the age of the route. It's been there 9 hours, 16 minutes, 57. Let's see, it's 3 o'clock. I brought it up at 5 a.m. I think it's showing that local preference router ID where it's coming from. So that's R1. And hopefully R2 is up. Yep. And run show OSPF neighbor. You can see the neighbors. Show OSPF. I mean, basically whatever you can do on a router. And if you haven't logged into a router, this is the perfect opportunity. Oops. So it's the detailed analysis of that. And the version, just to show you, Space can figure these things out. This is 10 to R1.8. This is R2. Show version. This is 10.0 R3.6. Another one. This Pro 9A, which logged me out, but that's the one that's in the lab. So you don't need to really see that one. It's boring. It's a, oh, well, I should show you. I just want to show you that it is an M10i because it says so. It's an M10. It's an older router in the lab. It's a real router. It's not fake. Yeah. And this, okay, census is here. What I want to do is, it's not as interesting as the this is MRTG, let me make sure that it's still working. Yes. So this, I don't know if anybody's familiar with this tool. It just monitors the interfaces on the router to see if there's traffic going on. That Centos machine, I just put it there. And I was doing some really fast things to create traffic. So it looks pretty. Okay, now, oh, space. There is space. Let's see. And this is right now connected with me. It is connected. It is connected. Yes.
Sorry, Michelle, are you giving this?
Yes.
Desktop share or something?
I'm not saying something.
This is all being transparent.
Okay.
Yes.
And finally, I want to show you the route inside manager. So this is the virtual, let me just close that. This is the virtual RAM, and it's connected to the network. Oh.
So Juniper Space is a software.
Yes, it's a software.
That's different than JWeb. It's more sophisticated.
Correct.
Because it's more graphic capability.
Correct. Yes.
So it's a monitoring tool.
Yes. I think we have two versions of Space.
Actually, Space is a little bit, do you want to show anything else? But I can spend 2 seconds on it, because that's kind of exciting. One of the things I said about the flexibility of the new network, and one of the aspects of that is that the network can be reconfigured. It can be reconfigured at the box level. It can be reconfigured at the management level, and applications or appliances can also talk to it. So Space is an environment that allows an application to make a request to the network and make configuration changes based on a gamer, based on a media request, some kind of an increased requirement for traffic or something, or different environmental things that occur. So we're excited about Space because we also have SDKs. There's an API layer, programmer interface layer, that you can access to the Junos, the box, the management layer through Space, and down the road, Pulse. Pulse is alive and well. I have it on my phone right now, and I use it for SSL VPN and a variety of other things. But there will also be programming opportunities for that. So that goes general availability. So it's really kind of exciting. So now you start to think not only this is a box, a network topology, you start thinking about how do I interact with different disciplines that we're teaching within the environment to make your students smarter. How much power is behind this to be able to show this to the media group, to be able to show this to the gaming group, to be able to show this to the programmers, so that building applications that take advantage of that. And you don't have to have all the hardware, as you mentioned earlier, as well as the advantages to the standard sort of networking training. So, did you have anything else?
I just wanted to show the room very quickly,
Yeah.
and I'm done. And if you see this log, you'll see that it keeps getting updated. It says new announced, new announced, new announced. Those are coming from the network right now. So it's able to monitor it and show the log. And this tool actually has a way to replay the events that happened. And I can imagine all kinds of interesting things you can build by just replaying what happened in the last hour in the internet. So it's nice. And this is, so virtual RIM is connected to this router, 555.2, and that's how it knows the topology. This is the OSPF topology. So ideally, if I disconnect an interface, back in my, I should see some red here. I haven't tried it, but I wanted to hear live, so it's exciting. Okay, let's see. Let's pick one. R1 to R2. There are two links, so I'm going to just take down one. One. Oh, that's so good. Let's see what happens. Sure. It's gone. Now, I see a red growing. Yay. Yeah, so you know, you can play with that.